Hi, and welcome to Essential Mat Level 1. This video will include an in-depth breakdown and explanation of all of the exercises. So this video would be a prerequisite to the Essential Mat flow. If you have not already watched and participated in the 5 basic principle video, I highly recommend that you do that prior to this video, as much of the information that was covered in that video will not be broken down in as much detail during this one. Okay, so let's get started. So we are going to lay on our backs to begin, and as you'll recall, if you used a head prop, you can go ahead and have that in place now. So what we're going to begin with is just some simple breathing. So you are welcome to close your eyes here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice deep breath in and an exhale out. And I want you to do that a few more times. So with these initial breaths in and out, they do not need to be specific. They do not need to be all that directive as far as engaging the transverse abdominis muscle. So just let these first few breaths be an opportunity to get inside your body. So now I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, we're going to exhale out through pursed lips. Do that again. And one more time. And just gently revisit the imprint to neutral. So just allow the pelvis to do a gentle rock back and forth. Just exploring those different ranges of motion. Noticing where your body is today, so that can vary from day to day. Some days your neutral position feels quite comfortable, and other days it may not. So if anything is putting tension in the body, what you want to do is choose a position that alleviates that. So we're going to settle into about the middle of those two extreme positions, establishing your neutral where there's a slight curve in the low back and the ribs are still making contact with the floor. And we're going to go ahead and just do a couple of head nods here. Let's take an inhale in to lengthen through the back of the neck. And then on your exhale, return. And again, breathing in. And exhale to return. One more time. So as you inhale, you're thinking of taking the back of the neck and making it nice and long. And then return. We're going to begin with the ab prep. So with the ab prep, you are going to inhale into your head nod. Now as you exhale, we are going to lift the head and move into thoracic flexion. Take a breath in and hold here. Exhale and return back down to the mat. Now let's do that again, and then we're going to start to talk about what's happening. Breathing in, you're preparing the head to lift from the mat. Exhale, the head lifts, and then the neck continues to move into flexion as the thoracic spine moves into flexion. Stay here for an inhale. Take a deep breath in. Don't restrict. I don't want the breath to get stuck in the chest. Exhale, and you're going to lengthen away from the pelvis. And we're going to do that again, breathing into head nod. As you exhale into your thoracic flexion, what I want you to be mindful of, because you have probably done it, is that the low back does not change shape. So when you flexed up, you do not want to tuck the glutes and press the low back into the floor. You're trying to keep the lumbar spine nice and stable and still. Exhale to return back down. We're going to do this 2 more times. Inhale, exhale. Inhale to remain. Exhale to lower down. Once more. So my eye gaze is to my knees. My forehead is not facing the ceiling, it's facing the thighs. So I've lifted up high enough that I've had to recruit my abdominals to assist me in that spinal flexion. Now from here, we're going to roll over onto our stomachs and we're going to prepare the spine for spinal extension. So once you lay down on your stomach, Your legs can either be together or they can be slightly apart. I want you to choose what feels comfortable for you. Your hands are resting gently beside the shoulders. You're not confined to your mat. So if you're working on a mat, don't feel stuck on that. You can move your hands as broadly as you want to be comfortable. Now I'm going to choose to put my feet just slightly apart. Your head can start on the mat, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and have my head start in alignment with the rest of my spine. Now before we move from here, we want to establish a neutral position for the low back, even on the stomach. So what I mean by that is you don't want to allow your abdominal muscles to just collapse into the floor here. Imagine you had an ice cube laying underneath your stomach and you just wanted to pull up away from it a little bit, while at the same time keeping your pubic bone on the mat. So we're going to take a deep inhale in without movement. Now as I exhale, I'm going to start to move my head into extension of the cervical spine and then extension of the upper back. Breathe in here and then exhale to lower that back down. Inhale to prepare. As I exhale, I'm starting to look slightly forward. Now my neck is done at this point. I'm going to transfer the motion into my upper back. My ribs are still on the floor. And then on my next exhale, I'm going to lower this back down. Just like the ab prep when you were on your back, the low back does not move during this. We're just moving the thoracic and the cervical. Breathe in to prepare. And then exhale. It's not a large motion, and it's unique to each individual. One more time. Breath in and exhale down. Now from here, I'm going to have us push back into a shell stretch. So for the shell stretch, you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can sit back towards your heels and the hands are going to come up beside you and you're going to actively curve your spine. The intention here is to release any tension that may have been produced in the low back on that. The knees could also be apart for this. And for some people, this much knee flexion is just not appropriate. And in that case, you could come to all fours and do more of what looks like a cat stretch. Now, it is distinctly different from a yoga child's pose. However, if you want to do a yoga child's pose, that's fine. Okay, so we are going to move back onto our back, and we are going to do a modified version of the 100. So anytime I'm laying on my back, because I want my neck to not have to start an extension, I will always put that head prop underneath me. Okay, so for this version of the 100, I am going to be leaving my legs on the floor. Okay, so we are in an essential level 1 at this point, and I will have a progressive essential class coming up as well that will take us into some of the other modifications. Okay, so for this particular one, we're going to go back into that ab prep position that we did earlier. So we will inhale to prepare, and this time the exhale will be everything, the head nod and the thoracic flexion. So I'm in that same position that I was in before. Take a breath in. I'm going to have you lower back down for a moment. Breathe in to prepare. Exhale, the head nods. Now as you flex up, I'm going to use this hand instead. Think of your sternum sinking to the floor. Think of this point where the ribs meet sinking, but not the abdominal wall or the navel. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start to do a little pumping with the arms. And we're going to breathe in for 5 counts and exhale for 5 counts. So we're going to sniff those breaths and puff initially. So it's an in, out. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, out. In, and out. Continue. continue with that. Notice that my elbows are not bending. I'm pumping from the shoulder. If you get neck tension during this, continue the movement of the arms, but lower the upper body out. And what you want to do if you've brought the upper body back down is minimize any movement of the thoracic spine. It's called the 100 because we're up here for 10 sets of 10 breaths. That's a lot of endurance. That's a long time. So start off with maybe trying to do 50 in flexion and then 50 back down on the mat. Let's do one more set. We're going to breathe in and hold, and then we're going to exhale to lower all the way back down onto the mat. If you had any tension in your neck during that, just gently give your head a little turn side to side. Again, if mat work is new to you, don't be surprised if you recruit what you're strong at and not what you're weak at. Oftentimes, we're not very strong at creating flexion from the abdominals, but we're really good at flexing our necks. So from here, we're going to come up to a seated position. I'm going to use one of my legs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on behind this leg, and then I'm going to pull this leg to the floor and have it bring me up. You could also have come up in any other way that you would have liked. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into what's called the half rollback. So for this, we're going to be focusing on lumbar flexion. So the ab prep was a focus on thoracic flexion. Now we're going to move into the lumbar area. So what I want you to do is take your arms out in front of you and bring your legs out far enough that you don't feel restricted in your hip joint. You're also perfectly fine to sit on top of something for this. Just make sure you have enough room behind you to roll back onto your sacrum. So the arms are out in front, and what I'm going to do is imagine I slid these across a tabletop, and I'm going to fold myself forward. Now, I'm going to take a breath in here, and then as I exhale, I'm going to initiate by thinking of taking my low back backwards. My glutes are definitely going to kick in when I do this. And I'm only going back as far as the sacrum. Now I want to maintain this exact shape that I'm in, and I'm going to inhale, and I'm going to tell my abdominals, bring me forward as my arms slide back along that imaginary tabletop. Exhale again. So I'm telling my low back to go backwards, and I'm telling my pubic bone to curl towards my belly button. Now I'm going to tell where my ribs meet. Come forward, come forward, come forward. There's no denying that your hip flexors are assisting you in coming back up and in helping you on the way down. But because most of us are already quite proficient at overusing those muscles, I'm very consciously trying to recruit from other places. Now I want you to notice that my arms are staying parallel to the floor the entire time, or at least I hope they are. That is my goal. And as you can see, as I've warmed up my low back, it has become a little more compliant and willing to let me go a little bit further back each time. Now, I am going to take us all the way back down onto the floor. Now, you can choose to either assist yourself back down, or you could take this particular exercise and slowly bring yourself all the way back down into the mat. Now, I'm going to reset myself because I did not quite land where I began. So what we're going to go into now is a modified version of the roll-up. So what we're going to be doing is a half roll-up, and we're going to start with bent knees, and then we're going to do it with extended legs. So it's going to look a lot like your ab prep that you've already done. You're going to start to see a lot of similarities. So once you get some of these fundamental exercises down, you're going to see how, oh, I'm just progressing something. Take your arms and reach them overhead. And I want you to remind yourself of that rib cage placement in our 5 basic principles video. Remember, we don't want the ribs starting popped away from the floor. So we're looking for that position where I feel my ribs are in contact. I've got my feet on the mat, so I want my low back to remain neutral. So I'm going to inhale, lead with the arms. Once they're at about right above the shoulders, I'm going to start to follow them with an exhale. There's my head nod. And here I am back in my ab prep position. I'm going to breathe in to stay and exhale all the way back down. So basically we've taken our ab prep and we've added arms to it. Inhale to reach. Keep the arms moving. Try not to pause there. Allow that exhale to just organically happen. Breathe in to stay and exhale to lower back down. Now from here, let's take our legs and extend them. And I want to talk about whether that's appropriate or not for you. So the legs can be together or apart, and I'm going to flex my ankles so I've got some energy reaching out through my heels, and I'm telling the backs of my thighs to think of buckling to the floor. If when you took your legs out, you've got a buckling in the knee, or it caused your low back to come significantly away from the floor, this is not an appropriate choice for you yet. So what you could do is, if you were in a good bend of the knee, perhaps walk it a little further out. Otherwise, keep the knees in a bent position. Once again, I'm breathing in to reach the arms. Exhale to head nod. I'm pausing about the times I can see my toes. Inhale to stay. Exhale to come back down. Now we're going to do it just like that one more time, and then I'm going to add a slight variation. Inhale, leading with the arms. Exhale, the head nods. Sink your sternum. Sink where the ribs meet. Inhale to remain. Exhale to lower back down. Adding a variation. Inhale to reach. Exhale, the head nods. This time, instead of staying on the inhale, when you inhale, I want you to take the arms back up. How far can you take them without needing to lower down? Then exhale back down. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale to reach. Exhale, the head nods. We start our roll up. Inhale. What you're going to see is this makes your upper body heavier, 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 and harder to stay. Exhale back down. And last time. Inhale to reach. Exhale, the head nods. Inhale, scoop the arms up. And then we're going to exhale all the way back down. And you can allow those arms to circle around, and then we're going to come back up to a seated position again. So once again, I can use one of my legs to help me, or I could have just rolled up. Now we're going to move into a spine twist. I'm going to turn to face you for this. I can sit cross-legged. I can also take my legs out in front of me. This is also an option. However, this is probably one of the least obtainable positions for people to do this exercise in. So I would suggest you either do a slight bend in the knee or you cross the legs. And if you have a yoga block or something of that nature, you can certainly sit on that to make yourself more comfortable, because we do want to be able to lift up. We don't want our low back curving during this particular exercise. So what I'm going to have you do is take your arms, reach them straight out to the sides. I want you to assess, how does this feel on your shoulders? This is quite heavy out here. If you fatigue here, you find that, I don't like that very much, take it to more of a 45-degree angle and then try leaving them there. The key is going to be that the arms are just going along for the ride. So I want you to take a deep breath in. We're going to rotate in one direction. You can go in either one, and just take a long exhale. Allow your eye gaze to look over your shoulder, and you're spiraling your spine. Breathe in and come back to the center. Exhale, other way. Head, thoracic, lumbar. Breathing in, and again. Inhale to return, and exhale. Now we're going to add a little pulse to this. This time, exhale, go to your maximum contraction just like you've been doing. Now back off just a little bit as you breathe in quickly. Now go 2 more times. Inhale, return to the center. So you end up doing 3 pulses total. So I'm going maximum rotation on 1, little release 2 more times. What you will likely find is you do go a little further. It's a little of that pre-tense and recoil of the connective tissue. We're going to go one more time each way. So I may not do quite as many repetitions in this video as I will do in our flow-based video, but think of this as your opportunity to really focus on the form. We're not rushing through anything. All of the movements are done with significant amounts of intention. And then breathing back in and then allowing the arms to relax back and down. Okay, so we are going to go into a rolling like the ball prep. There are 2 preps to this, and we're going to do one of them today. This one is done with the feet on the floor. It's going to look a lot like your half rollback that you've already done. So I'm going to bend my knees in towards me. I'm going to take my hands and I'm just going to press them in lightly towards my legs. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my hands and pushing them gently into my legs. At the same time, my legs are pressing gently out. So I have a little bit of an energy flow here. So I'm going to inhale, and once again, I am curling my pubic bone towards my belly button. Okay, so there's that half rollback shape. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the same part of my body to bring me back forward, but then I'm going to go ahead and build my spine back up. So once again, this time I'm inhaling back, and you'll see why the breath is what it is when we get into the full exercise, because you will want that exhale to help you come back up. So really think, curl the pubic bone, curl the pubic bone. It's so tempting to just get right into the glutes anytime we go into a half roll back, and there's definitely some abdominal opportunities there to create that flexion in your low back. So one more time, coming back with an inhale, exhale, and rebuilding. Okay, so now we are going to go back down all the way to the mat. And we are going to go into a series here. There's quite a bit of thoracic flexion in this, and for our purposes today, I will be bringing you down and out of flexion between the exercises. When we get into our flow, we will do our best to try and stay up the whole time. So we are going into single leg stretch here. So what we're going to do is, if you'll recall from your 5 basic principle video, we're going to go into our imprint. So what I'm going to ask you to do is find your imprint, bring one leg to tabletop, bring your other leg to tabletop. Okay, so now take a breath in, exhale, and we flexed our spine back up. Okay, so I'm going to keep the arm choreography. I'm going to go slow with it. So your hands are basically creating pathways for your legs. So I'm going to keep my front leg in, and I'm going to reach my away leg out. So if you'll see what I'm doing here is my outside hand is reaching towards the ankle. My inside hand is to the knee. These are going to switch. My upper body is maintaining flexion the whole time, and my legs are doing the exact opposite motion. One's bent, one's straight. You can bring the knee in quite close to you. That lessens a little bit of the abdominal intensity. Or you can keep the leg at about 90 degrees, and that does intensify the work on the abdominals. If you choose to stop at that 90 degree, keep in mind your arms are not long enough to reach the ankle anymore, so you're reaching towards without touching. The pace on this can certainly be increased, and it can also be done without staying in thoracic flexion the whole time. We're going to do 2 more. Here's 1. Now I'm going to have you inhale. Both legs are going to come back in and meet. Exhale to lower down. Allow the arms to relax and bring both feet back down to the floor. Now we are going to go into obliques, and for this one I'm going to leave our legs down. In the next level I will be bringing the legs up. So for this one, the hands are coming behind the head. Now before I bring you up, I want you to keep in mind your hands are serving a function back here. They're not just ear dressing. What I want you to do is ever so slightly float your head from the mat. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell our head, push gently into my hands as my hands match that pressure by pushing into the head. It yields no change in shape or positioning, but what it does is it lessens the front of my neck's work. Allow the head to nod with an inhale. Exhale, fold yourself up, but lift yourself up from the rib cage. Do not push your head forward with your hands. Now your hands are going to make you heavier, so your abdominals are working harder with your arms back here, but your neck is working less. So you kind of pick your battle here. Now I'm going to rotate my spine here. I want you to focus more on twisting, just like what we did in that seated position. This is not about what my arms are doing. Inhale through the middle, exhale the other way. Inhale through the middle. I'm going to keep my neutral low back position. Inhale through the center, trying to hold my height. One thing I'm looking at, and I want you to do this as well, pause in this rotation. Look at your armpit, and is your armpit in line with your hip? We want it to be. There is a want to side bend these exercises, and you'll find your armpit straying away from the hip. So twist through the center. Every time you rotate, just give that a quick eye gaze. It's right there and available for you. If you find, oh, I'm fatiguing, you could lower between each one, come up. I find that this looks so much like an exercise from the gym that it often becomes one of the ones people go, oh, I know that one. But actually what they know they're to do is not filled with as much movement as integrity as it could be. This is going to be our last rotation. We inhale back to the center, and then we exhale back down. Hands are going to be removed from the head. My legs are coming back up. So I'm going to find my imprint. One leg comes up, other leg comes up. We're going into double leg stretch. So once again, inhale, prepare. The upper body is going to flex with an exhale, head nod. My hands are both beside my legs. So my arms and my legs are going to reach away from each other on an exhale. So think of taking a hat off your head. Inhale, circle the arms, meet the knees at 90. Now how low the arms and the legs go is up to you, but you do not want to lower out of this. So you don't want your body going down and up. I know as those arms go back, that's the challenge. We're really heavy right there. I want to drop. That's the challenge. 2 more. And 1 more. Take a breath in. Exhale, lower the upper body, but leave the legs up. Hands come back down. Both legs are going to reach for the ceiling. We're going to go into scissors. Now for scissors, the arms could remain long and beside you. However, they could also go back behind the head. So that's going to be the option I'm going to use. I'm going to put my hands back behind my head. I'm exhaling to head nod. And I'm going to inhale to stay. Now as I exhale, one leg comes forward, one leg goes away. There's a little pulse for 2. Breathe in as they pass. Resist the urge to go as far as you can on the first pulse. Leave yourself somewhere to go. So there's 1. Notice they go further 2. And this was the other option. The arms could be down here. Abdominal wall is trying to sink. 1 more, each leg. Both legs inhale up, exhale, and lower down. You'll be happy to know that's the end of that series. Both legs are coming to the floor. We're going into a shoulder bridge prep now. So I'm going to remove the head pad, and I want you to do the same thing. Anytime we're going to lift the hips up above the shoulders, we don't want to have anything underneath the head. So bring your feet together for me. And now I want you to take your toes apart so you've made a V with your feet, and then move your heels into alignment with your toes. So once again, feet together, V, in line. That's just a quick, easy way to try and get your heels in line with your sit bones. I'm in a neutral pelvic position, and what I'm going to do is lift my hips up off the mat. I'm going to take a breath in. I want you to have your feet push the floor away, have your arms push the floor away, and drive the hips up. Inhale to stay. Exhale, tell your sacrum to go find the mat. So we're not rolling through the spine, we're hinging. Breath in. I think of my arms pushing the floor away from my hips. My glutes are driving my hips up. Hamstrings are assisting in that lift. Breath in. Exhale back down. And again, breath in. Exhale, lifting up. You want to land on the shoulder blades here. Don't go so high that you are on the neck or unable to easily breathe. 2 more times. Breath in. Exhale to lift. Inhale to stay. Exhale to lower back down. Once more. Inhale. Exhale. I don't know if you can hear that, but all the dogs are going tonight. And exhale back and down. Now from here, I'm going to have us come back up to a seated position, and I'm going to turn to face you, and we're going into saw. So for saw, I'm seated again, and my legs are apart. I'm going to face you, but if you're sitting on your mat, they're about the width of your mat, so you want to avoid getting them too wide. If you are unable to sit up nice and tall here, you do want to sit back up on a prop of some sort, or just simply let the knees bend a little bit. So kind of see where you feel like you can accomplish this without too much tension. Keep in mind, feeling your quads and feeling your hamstrings is not the goal here. So if that's all you're noticing, we want to alleviate that in some way. The arms are going to reach out to the side, and we're going to combine 2 things here. We're going to inhale to rotate. So we've done spine twist already. Now I'm going to exhale, and I'm going to lead with my head, and I'm going to round over, and as I do, I'm going to take my arms and I'm going to saw towards my pinky toe. My back arm has turned to face me. Now, I'm not laying on my leg, I'm not going for a hinge, I'm rounding over as if I had a ball on my leg. As I inhale to rebuild, I'm just going to allow that back arm to turn when it feels appropriate, and exhale back to the front. So every breath has a move. Inhale to twist. Exhale, lift the head. Think of an ab prep, but from a seated position. Sawing towards the pinky toe. If the pinky toe is too far, saw to the big toe. Inhale as you rebuild. You'll know when that back arm feels okay to rotate back and to the center. Inhale to rotate. Exhale. So as we start progressing in our Pilates programming, we start combining multiple motion planes. So instead of just doing front to back or side to side, we're combining things. So we're adding a rotation with flexion. And return, and then back to the center. And then we're going to allow the arms to come down. Okay, so from here we're going to go into some side leg work. So for the first one, we're going to do side kick. So we're going to use our mat for this because it's really, really helpful. So back up to the back edge of your mat, and you're going to align everything from your shoulder to your bottom with the back edge of the mat, and then your legs are going to come forward about 45 degrees. Now this bottom arm can be straight, this bottom arm can bend underneath you. You could also choose to prop the head with your towel. The key is we want the neck in alignment with the rest of the spine. You don't want your neck having to hang lower. Now before we begin, we want to get into a neutral spinal position again. So when you lay on your side, your waistline naturally wants to drop down to the mat, and that causes this top hip to slide into this top rib. So how we're going to fix that, again, you can think ice cube underneath the waistline, which causes you to want to pull up. But the other thing we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to lift your top leg up to hip height, and then draw it out until it's as long as your bottom leg. And you can go back down and check. And what you should feel now is that you've created a little bit of lift or space between you and the floor. This top hand is going to rest here. If this is not easily reachable, put your yoga block here or bridge the fingers. Now, initially we're just going to go through the movement. We're going to reach forward with an inhale. The foot's flexed. On the exhale, I'm going to point the toe and I'm going to reach back. I'm not trying to go anywhere with my leg. I'm going to inhale forward and I'm going to exhale back. I'm actually more concerned with what is my waist doing. Am I able to keep my spine in a long, straight, neutral line as my leg's moving forward and backwards? Now, we're going to add a little pulse to this. So just like the pulse when you did scissors, I'm not going to go as far as I can on the first one. There's my 1, back off a little further, 2. When I go to the back, there's no pulse. Now, hopefully I'm doing what I'm going to say here. I want the height of this leg to be the same the whole time. Inhale, 1, 2, exhale, draw back. Inhale, 1, 2, exhale, draw back. Now, we're going to move into the side leg lift series. So for this, I'm going to back up my bottom leg and I'm going to put my whole body into alignment with the back edge of the mat. And once again, I want to get my waistline established. So I'm going to take my top leg and I'm going to draw that foot until it's as long as the bottom foot. So my big toes are matching each other right now. So for this, I'm going to inhale, lift up with a pointed foot, exhale, flex to lower. As this leg's going up and down, my waistline's not moving. You will see this often done with way too much range of motion. I want your knee to keep facing me. You will go somewhere between 35, maybe 45 degrees, and then the waistline's going to have to sink, or you will have rotated your leg. So we're trying to focus on this glute med area, the side of the hip, so we don't want any rotation in the thigh bone so that we can stay isolated with that. If you are feeling especially wobbly doing this, bend the leg on the floor. So there's an inhale, there's an exhale. We're going to go 2 more. Inhale up, exhale down, once more, inhale, exhale. Now we're going to go into circles. So this leg's coming up. So what I'm going to have you do is go a little forward, little down. Now don't skip this part. Go a little back and up. So how far forward you go has to match how far back you can go. I personally do need to do this with my bottom leg bent. If I have my bottom leg straight, I'm very limited in my range of motion and I have a hard time not moving my torso forwards and backwards. So you're drawing a circle. The exhale's through the bottom. 1 more. We're not done. We're going to reverse it. Go backwards and then forward and up. Once again, don't skip the back. Exhale through the bottom. And 1 more. Now, let's give that leg a quick little break. Bring it forward and let it drop down. Now, we do have to do the other side. So we're going to come on up and I'm going to move around. Let's move my microphone pack a little bit. So again, with side kick, I want to line up my hips and my shoulder with the back edge of the mat. And then I'm going to take my legs forward 45 degrees. Okay, so now lifting the leg up hip height, drawing the hip out nice and long so my waistline has lifted, balancing on my hands or the palm. Without the pulse again, let's just explore the range of motion, different leg, different everything. So as you inhale, feel the heel of the foot trying to pull away from your sit bone and your sit bone pulling away from your hip. You don't want to tuck your bottom forward when that leg goes forward. Now we'll add the pulse. 1, 2, and reach back. Hopefully you're starting to appreciate all the nuance and all the detail that you're learning in this video, so that when you do get to where it's just flowing, it's just cueing the choreography with little reminders, you'll be prepared. 1 more time. 1, 2, and reach back. So again, now we're going to back that bottom leg up. One long straight line. Draw the top leg out so it's just as long. Toes are going to match. Lift and lower. Inhale up with the pointed foot. Exhale down with the flexed foot. Breathing in. Keeping the knee facing forward. So we're isolating glute med, side of the hip, our abducting muscles. If you are dominant in your lateral rotators or your medial rotators, your thigh will twist when you do this. Your body will always go to where it's strong, even if that's not what we want it doing. Now we're going to go into circles, and once again, I am going to bend my bottom leg. You could keep yours straight. I'm going to come up to that hip height, little forward, down, little back. I'm exploring my range. It's really easy to go forward, not so easy to go back. And remember the exhales through the bottom. One more, and then reverse. Remember that exhale is recruiting that transverse abdominis. That muscle helps compress all the abdominal contents, helps to give us a little internal stability. Last 2 and 1. And then again, let's bring that leg on forward. Let that leg dangle down. Okay, so from here, we are going to come back up to a seated position, and we're going to go into one of our teaser preps, of which there are many. But I'm going to do one from a seated position. We've done so much flexion up from the floor, and pardon me while I reorganize my microphone here. So, what I'm going to have us do is figure out exactly where the spine should be for our teaser position. So I'm going to take you through that. I want you to hold on to your legs, and then I want you to find just a little bit of that half roll back position. So we took our pubic bone and we curled it towards the belly button. Now, I don't want you to come back where you are, off of where you are on your pelvis, but what I do want you to do is take your chest and lift it up. So your eye gaze is just slightly up at an angle, not too high. So you're off the sit bones, but your abdominals are engaged. Test it by taking the arms out in front of you. Now, lift the arms up at a slight angle. And that should have made this quite difficult. You probably want to come back out of it. And then what I'm going to have you do is lower the arms back down, and let's sit back up. Let's break that down again. So we find our lumbar flexion first. Now, without coming forward, which will be what your body seeks to do, lift the sternum, shine it up, then see if the arm lift is appropriate for you. It may not be. Bring the arms back down and bring that back up. Okay, so let's do that once more. Find your micro half roll back. Shine the chest. Now leave the arms here for me, and I want you to bring one leg tabletop. Lift those arms back up. Bring the arms back down. Stay here. Place that foot on the floor. Tell that foot to push the floor down as the other foot comes up. Lift the arms. Bring the arms back down. Place that leg down. We're going to continue to alternate the legs, arms at the same time. So as the leg comes up, the arms lift up. Notice that hopefully I'm not changing the shape of my spine. I'm going to ask you to do one more in each direction. You may find that arm bit is just one layer too far, and that is okay. It's more important that you honor where your body's at than that you force it forward. Again, as I discussed in our 5 basic principles, go ahead and bring that up. You will actually slow down your progressions if you try to skip through things and go too quickly. Okay, so from here, I'm going to have us go back down on our stomachs. We're going to do a couple of exercises there to wrap things up. So coming down, we're going to go into single leg extension. Now, for this, you're going to be laying down
with your forehead on the backs of your hands. That's going to probably make my microphone sound quite strange, so I'm going to hold off on getting there myself. Take your legs about hip distance apart and let them rotate outward. Now, before we do anything further, I just want you to try to contract each booty cheek, right to left, and feel free to go ahead and rest your head on the backs of your hands. Remember, the abdominal wall's drawing up, the pubic bone's drawing down, so we're trying to keep our low back neutral. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to contract the right glute and imagine somebody was taking a hold of your right leg and they were making it long, so long, so long, so long that it actually could float off the floor. And then place it back down and relax that glute. Contract the left glute. Focus on length through the leg to create the lift. If you go straight for the lift, you are likely to bend the knee, you're likely to move from the low back. So try to contract what we want doing the lift before you do the lift itself. And it's okay if it doesn't come off the mat at all. If you find the right muscle contraction, and again, realize I'm holding my head up just to alleviate microphone feedback for you, but you would be here. And we're going to go one more time. Good. And then letting that come down. Now, I want you to move your legs just slightly wider apart. So now they're more shoulder distance apart. We're going to bring our hands back beside us and we are going to go into a swan dive prep. Swan dive involves lumbar extension as well. So I'm going to break this way down for you. Okay, so a lot of this looks like your breaststroke prep that we did at the very beginning, except for the leg positioning. Our legs are wide and they are rotated outward. But what I do want you to do is I want you to breathe in and come to that breaststroke position for me. So this we've done. Your ribs are on the mat. Chest is starting to lift. Right here, what I want you to do is I want you to tell your elbows, your whole forearm, to push the floor away. Start to pick up your abdominals away from the mat and tell your tush to tuck. Pubic bone down, but I'm tucking my bottom, I'm tucking my bottom, I'm tucking my bottom, and yes, my arms do start to push me up. Now, my pubic bone is still on the mat, but my hip bones are not. Now, as I lower down, I'm going to pull the floor backwards because I'm going to draw myself long and away. The key is order of operations on this. So if you're a yoga practitioner or you've done like cobras and up dogs, it's not that, but that will be in your muscle memory. So go slow with me. Inhale, find your breaststroke position. Now exhale, push the floor with the forearms. Start to draw the abdominals up. Start to tuck the tailbone. The higher you lift, the more the tailbone tucks under. Because what that's doing is it's tilting your pelvis away from going into a tilt forward. Draw the floor backwards as you lower yourself back down. We're going to do 2 more of those. Inhale, find your upper back extension. Push into the mat. Exhale, draw up. Breathe in. Exhale to lower down. I have a ton of energy in my legs right now. One more time. Inhale through breaststroke. Elbows push. Abdominals draw. Tailbone tucks under. So abs up, booty back. And then exhale, draw back down. And then let's revisit that shell stretch. So anytime we've done a lot of that low back work, this will feel nice. Any version that you liked. Knees together, knees apart, on all fours. And then our final 2 exercises. So we're going to do something called leg pull front prep. Now this is done on the hands and the knees. So it's in what we call a quadruped or a 4-point kneeling position. And I'm going to tuck my shirt in a little bit so that it's not misleading what I'm asking you to do here. So my knees are together and they are under my hips. My toes are going to turn under. Now, I'm not directly on top of my wrist. I'm going to have my hands just slightly forward of me. I'm spreading out my fingers and I'm telling my fingers to kind of dig in and grip the mat. Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to tell your arms to try and push the mat forward. And tell your knees to try to pull the mat backwards. So you've got this energy. Take a breath in without shifting any more weight forward into the arms.
hover the knees. Breathe in. Exhale, gently put the knees down. Try not to disengage everything that you have already found. Take a breath in. Fingertips are gripping. I'm pushing the mat forward as I lift. So there's no body shift. I just came up. My quads picked up my knees, and then they're going to lower back down. Breath in. Exhale. If you are somebody with a lot of mobility in the elbow, you want to be mindful that you do not have your elbow pointing this way. Take this area and do just a slight inward rotation. So I tell people, if you think about taking the vein and pointing it towards 12 o'clock, not straight ahead with the fingers. So let's have you guys do one more of those. Exhale to hover. Breathe in to stay. And exhale down. And then from here, we're ready for our push-up. So I'm going to walk my legs back a little bit. My knees are going to remain on the floor, as are my toes. But now I can relax my toes down. So why are my toes staying down? This puts a lot of weight on the knees. This can be uncomfortable. So just let the legs remain down. I'm going to bring my hips into this. So every part of me looks like it's in a push-up position, except that my knees are down to hold some of my lower body weight. All of those same things I just said to you about the arms. Squeeze the fingertips into the mat. Think of trying to push the mat not only forward, but I want you to push the floor away from you. I'm pushing down into the floor as I bend my elbows, and I'm going to lower for 1, 2, 3. Exhale, press back up. Breathing in, you can sniff. As you're lowering, the backs of your ears continue to reach to the ceiling so that your head does not shear forward. My hips are committed. I'm pushing that floor away from me. Let's just do one more. And 1, 2, 3, and press back. And let's take a big shift back. Roll the spine. Take another big shift back. You can go as deep with this as you want. You can take your knees apart. And then we're going to roll that back up. Okay, you have made it to the end of an essential mat workout. So this was a level 1 essential. There's more to come, a lot more to come. It's always coming. There's no end to Pilates ever. It's just a matter of finding where you feel appropriately challenged. So again, I would highly recommend that you participate with this video. Try to do this 2, maybe 3 times a week, and then step into the flow one. The flow starts to feel good. You start getting ready for a little more. Take it into the essential level 2. Any of the mat workouts with the props that are included, because sometimes the props actually make some of the work easier. If it's an essential based or an essential intermediate blend, you should be fine practicing with those videos as well. And I'd highly recommend some of the restorative work at this point too. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at bodypotentialtraining@gmail.com. And thank you so much.